Okay. So we were talking about like the MGTOW movement, and I was saying that I kind of fundamentally believe that ultimately that stuff comes from an idea of, you know, guys feeling like they're a nice guy, not just on the things that they do, but just inherently being a nice guy and how they feel like it's unfair that, let's say, a girl, you know, will pick a guy who's a piece of shit guy or a drug dealer or he treats her like shit, and they go, okay, you complain about that, but then when you meet a nice guy, you don't give him the same value. And then you were getting into like expectation and like how that's changed for you.
Well, yeah, because what I've read is a lot of these guys, you know, they say how, first of all, a lot of them don't make their intentions clear. They act like they want to be friends with the girl first, which I guess I might have been guilty when I was younger. But they'll start doing nice things, and maybe they'll kind of like hint that they like the girl more than a friend, but the girl's never shown interest. But the guy will still do nice things. Maybe he'll buy her gifts that she didn't ask for, or he'll pay for her lunch all the time they go out. You know, he's opening doors for her. He's treating her how he was always taught that women want a gentleman to be. Mm-hmm. And then maybe he'll get to the point where he finally gets the nerve up to say, hey, I really like you, and I have feelings for you. I want to be with you. And she'll say, I'm really sorry, but I don't like you. Like that. You know, and they'll even give the same, I really wish I had a guy like you, or something, but they'll still go with the jerk or, you know, the jackass. So,
well, real quick, I guess, okay, think about this, right? So when you first meet someone or you first start off,
yeah.
Although I guess the case could be made that everyone should be honest. Everyone should upfront go, hey, look, I like you, I want to pursue something with you.
Right.
But the reality is that like almost no one does that, man or woman, like man or woman. So it takes, you know, a super like mature person to say. And again, depending on the dynamic, right? Because let's say you meet a person at work. You don't want to just come out and change the whole
first day, you're not going to say, hey, I love you.
Or even say, hey, I'm attracted to you. Let's go out. Like, because you like, well, hey, if she's not, I don't want to make an awkward situation.
Right.
You might see a girl at the gym that you don't really know or have any connection to. And then it's kind of like, well, is she just busy working out? Should I talk to her? Should I not? Like, so then maybe the easy start is like being a friend, like meaning, hey, I'm going to spark up a conversation. Right. Like, you know, so I guess the first caveat is like, would you call that not being truthful, like showing ill intention, like meaning, hey, I'm showing I'm being a friend?
I think that's how a lot of the women see it, is that they weren't truthful at the guy wasn't truthful at the beginning. He wanted to be my friend.
And and again, that's another caveat, right? Because like, okay, the woman's then interpreting that the guy wants to be her friend, and he's technically treating her like a friend, right?
Right, but he's working his way, and starting off as friends, but I want to work into the higher level, but he's not always upfront about that.
But how can you be, I guess?
That's the thing. You can't always be like that. And just because there's a connection, it doesn't mean it's like a sexual attraction or something like that. Because a lot of girls and guys are different in the way where, you know, a lot more girls are more friendly to other people than I would say men are. And so to men, it can come off as like when a girl's being friendly to some men, it come off as, oh man, this girl might be really into me because she's talking to me. She keeps making like, you know, she's really nice. When all she's thinking is like, hey, this guy's a cool guy. I wouldn't mind being his friend.
Now to throw this twist in it too, because again, how many times has this happened? Where like, you know, a girl might meet a guy and think, wow, he's so attractive. Like I'd love to go out with him. And then he's an asshole or stupid or does something weird. And she goes, ugh, I don't like him anymore. Right. And then the inverse happens. You meet a guy and you're like, well, you know, like I wasn't that attracted to him, but he's just so nice and smart and this and funny. You go, wow, I think I kind of like him. So I guess the problem is like, where's the entry point? Because nobody really knows. Like if I meet someone, for one, I don't know if they're interested in me. For two, if there's not like a very clear opening, do you want to change a dynamic like at work or at the gym or something like this to make it weird if it doesn't work out?
Yeah. And
then for three, you kind of know that like, well, depending on like the flow of this stuff, like how will it actually work? Because if I'm just up front, maybe she doesn't really like that. Or maybe she dated guys who were like that and it didn't work out. And now she has this fear of that kind of guy. And then if you're nice, maybe it's like, wow, like maybe that builds currency. So then you kind of almost don't know how to be. And I think that's one of the issues with that whole movement of like the MGTOW thing is that if their thesis is it's not just what I've done, but the fact is that you complain about bad guys, but then you meet nice guys and you don't want them. Now the question is, well, what's that entry point? Like what's the point at which you should then be a nice guy? Or what's the point at which you should express your emotion?
I don't know. I think the hard part of this is and this is where it takes the growing up and being the more mature is you've got to someday realize that, well, she's just not going to be into me then. Maybe it's not that they're, because this is what I've heard too, it's not that they're into the bad guys, it's that they don't know that the bad guys are the bad guys until after they've been with them for a while. And so now you're like, okay, well, how do I even get the shot to get in the door? Like the bad guy got in the door. He didn't show he didn't show his full hand, but he got in the door, and now he's showing his full hand, and she's still with him, and she's been with other guys like that before. So now it becomes, well, did they know they were jerks, or I don't know, and that's a tough question. That's about, it's just how humans are, man.
And I think that's what makes it hard because, on one end, if you choose the wrong guy or he got in the door, but then you start to learn, okay, well, that's not the right guy for me. But then but what tends to happen also too is that people see that, well, that same girl makes the same mistake over and over again. And then you had an opportunity to get a nice guy and you didn't. And then you chose the next guy and he was a bad guy. Then the next time you chose a bad guy.
Yeah.
So then it's that kind of thing too. After enough time, maybe a guy goes, well, wait a minute, I'm meeting all these girls and they've all been in bad relationships. They've all had these bad experiences, and yet, they still just don't value the person that, like, say, like the MGTOW movement guys might think that they are. Is that, hey, I'm this really nice guy who's got a good job, who's stable, who's this and that, and these girls aren't picking me.
Yeah.
Even though they've been through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bad relationships. So why am I not getting a shot? And I think, look, it's a fair argument. It's definitely a fair argument. And obviously there's a lot of nuance, but I
think a lot of them still have to look within themselves. Though, like I said, were they being nice to the girl because they genuinely were nice to the girl? They want to start a relationship with the girl, or do they just want to have sex? And that's why they were being, you know what I'm saying?
But I think every girl would know that a guy, whether they like them in a kind of friendship type way,
of course some girls will know, but it's also up to the girl to try to stop it. If she's not going to like the guy, then she needs to, stop accepting the gifts. She needs to let him know, like, hey, you're really nice, but this is unnecessary. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that's the problem, right? I don't think a guy should be getting girls gifts.
Yeah, and that's why I think the most extreme, I think most guys, they'll do some nice things until they go, hey, I like you. Hey, I'm not really feeling you. And I think most guys are like, hey, that's cool. We'll still be friends, but maybe it's not as close as a friendship because the guy was like, well, I was looking for more than that. She doesn't want that, so I'm going to go pursue something else. I'll still be nice to her. I'll still be a friend. A lot of these red pill guys, they say, yeah, I'm your friend. Oh, I like you. Oh, you don't like me? Oh, but you're always with this guy. You're a bitch. I should have never done this for you. I should have never... Well, that's not... Now you're not being so nice to me. You're yelling at me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I can understand. Like I said, I never yelled at girls like that. But I used to be like, man, this is messed up, man. I'm doing all the things that the girls say they want, and they don't want me. So I had to start looking at other things in me. Like with me, yeah, sometimes I dress kind of dirty. Yeah, I need to lose a little bit of weight here and there. Maybe, you know what I'm saying? There's something that girls, you got to find what's going to make yourself attractive to the other sex, I think.
Well, and I think that's where a lot of this becomes very difficult, right? Because it becomes a situation where, yes, I think in your extreme example, if I'm buying you gifts, doing nice things, and I only just want to have sex, and I don't really care about you as a person, and I don't really,
But you're trying to make it seem like,
but you're trying
I'm so nice, and look at me,
you kind of want to be in a situation where you're like, I'm trying to force my niceness to get you to like me when all I really want is to have sex with you.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm genuinely being nice because I think you're a good fit for me, and I want to have a relationship with you, I'm probably going to continue to be nice, but I still don't think, let's say on the extreme end, gifts and all that is the appropriate thing, because I think it just lends itself to too much of I'm trying to buy something.
Yeah.
I'm trying to I'm trying to buy my way in to not only.
But you're also not going to be an asshole to the girl afterward just because she doesn't like you. You're still going to be nice. You're not going to be like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference between someone who's just trying to have sex and someone who's trying to build a relationship. Right. And maybe some of those guys might say, hey, look, I really was trying to build a relationship, and I wasn't going crazy with gifts or anything. I was just trying to be nice. But she ultimately just doesn't want a nice guy because she keeps picking these bad guys. And yeah, that's what I think is super hard. And I also think is super interesting because you're right. A lot of girls will admit oh my God, I really want this kind of guy. And then you go, hey, I'm going to try to be that kind of guy.
Yeah.
But then when you are, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a question of then you have to say to yourself, okay, if a guy goes, I'm going to be nice, doesn't work. I'm going to be an asshole, it works. Right? If you're more of an asshole and you're getting results, human nature is going to dictate that you're going to tend to go that route because you're getting results.
Yeah.
So then it becomes, I think, a self-fulfilling loop where if more guys become assholes and they're getting good results, then more guys are going to become assholes. But then the more girls who date assholes, and they go, why are all guys assholes?
Yeah.
Well, part of it is because it works. It's what you're picking in a sense, right?
Yeah.
But then guys aren't going to maybe go as deep as to like why it works, right? Like which could be something like, well, she likes the excitement of that.
I think that's what it is, because I think if you take the inverse, like, there's a lot of like good guys that will be with like bitches. You know what I'm saying? Like, because there are some nice, lovely girls out there. They're not hoes. They go to work every day. Probably they don't. They're even pretty and got good bodies, but they're not showing them all off. And they might not have a guy because maybe they're too soft spoken or something like that. They don't go out to the clubs or the bars, and they're the nice woman. But the guys, the nice guys that don't are dating the bitches probably. Like,
well, and I think
or maybe not bitches, but like the slutties.
And that's where I was kind of getting to is the idea that like guys are so much more simple in terms of the idea that, listen, if a guy's attracted to you and you're hot and he wants to have sex with you, you could be a nice girl, you could be bitchy, you could be, and there's still going to be that connection. I think with girls, in a sense, you want the excitement and the danger and the fun of like the bad guy.
I feel like the bad guy can protect them more somehow, like if things get rowdy or something like that, and like
true. But then it shifts when like you say, okay, but I want someone who's going to be stable, who has a great job, who will be a great father.
Yeah.
Like you want that too, right? Because here would be the difference. Like if a guy met a girl he was attracted to, and he was dating her, but then all of a sudden he was like, God, like you just don't go out anymore. You don't have fun. Like that wouldn't really happen. Like if he's attracted to her, he's attracted to her. Like it's kind of like one criteria. Where I think in some of the things I've seen, which has some validity, is that like girls want the excitement and the danger and the fun and like and the protection of the bad boy, but then they go, but then I also want the stability and like the caring and the loving and the nice gestures from this guy. But like what you were attracted to initially is now not what you want.
Yeah.
And what you actually want, you might not be attracted to initially. Whereas guys, if we're attracted to you initially, we're attracted to you towards like it's the same. Like you don't really hear a lot of guys complain that like, I'm still super attracted to my girl, but God, she just changed. It's like, they go, oh, well, she's like, they'll give an excuse or they'll say, it's not a big deal. If a guy's super attracted to a girl still, there's almost really not a complaint.
Yeah.
Now again, don't get me wrong. If he's just a bad guy or a dumb guy, he's like, he's just chasing other girls. Yeah, he could still be cheating on you. He could still be this and still be attracted to you.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, he's not a good guy.
Right.
Which would be, I guess, the caveat. But it's just, this is a super interesting dynamic to think through about, to me, the cycle that like, women are kind of the gatekeepers of this because they choose, right?
Yes.
Like they initially choose. Like guys may ultimately, towards the end of these dynamics, be the ones that go, do I want to stay? But girls are the ones who initially choose because guys are out courting you and talking to you and saying, hey, I want to date you. Then you choose. And now it's that, which ultimately means your choice has to be based on a much better criteria.
Yeah.
Because you're the initial, person who's choosing, right?
Yeah.
So then the guy has to then either, if he's going to be fake to get you to choose him,
right,
and it doesn't last, well then ultimately he's got to learn like, well, this isn't going to work in the long run. Now if he doesn't care, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
But it's still the same choices have to apply to the woman because you're the first person to make the choice.
Yeah.
So then if what you're choosing isn't working, then it's up to you then to change your criteria.
Yeah.
Right? Just like the guy, if he's losing and he's not getting what he wants in the end, well, then he has to change his criteria.
Yeah, it's up to him. It's either change the way you are or try the next one.
Right, but it still kind of starts with the woman, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think the hard part is that, and what we were talking about earlier is that I wish there were more female role models that could explain to women the downside of either A, not having a criteria, or B, just chasing fun and excitement for too long without really truly thinking about, what is it that I really want from a relationship?
Yeah.
Like, how do I really want my partner to be in the long run? And like, am I willing to give up a little bit to get a lot more? And that can be your criteria, whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
But there has to be something like that. And again, to be fair, guys have to do the same thing. Like, that's why I believe like this whole thing about women saying there's no good guys out there, and men saying, oh, all girls care about is money and hot guys. And it's like, they're both true to a sense, but they're both wildly untrue. But they both start with the idea that like, what's our criteria?
Right.
Right? Because now if you're a guy and you're only choosing someone off of looks, well then you're missing the idea that like, is that something that's going to be long lasting? And it's not, because, I don't care how hot a girl is. The 50-year-old, the hottest girl in the world at 50 is not as hot as she was at 25.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of knows that, although it feels unfair. But what mitigates that effect is that if that girl is smart and funny and cool and you enjoy her company, like as you get older, like you're going to enjoy being around her.
Yeah.
Right? So meaning guys have to start to choose off of more than just, well, she's hot and like I'll take her, right?
Yeah.
And then girls have to realize that like the fun and the excitement in the beginning is not also the characteristics that are going to be the things that they want down the road. Because when you want someone eventually who's serious, who is an investor, a homeowner, a good dad, a provider, caring, a problem solver, the guy who's been running around making mistakes his whole life is probably not that guy, right? So the criteria has to be there on both ends. And I think the ultimate answer is that we have to help each other as men and women, because too many men don't know what women want, and too many women don't know what men want.
Yeah.
And we both sit here and complain back and forth and go, well, but I'm being a great guy, and this girl's like, hey, look, I slept with this guy on the first date, or I did this thing, or I wanted to give him something that he liked because I know he likes it and I like him, and we both have these things of like we're not really helping each other understand short term and long term.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the only choice is short term.
Well, that's the thing. I was going to say, I think it's kind of messed up when you think about it, that we as humans, well, I guess other animals too, we as humans, we can only birth, or at least women, they can only have children up to a certain age. Like once they get to a certain age, you can't have children anymore. Men, for the most part, as well, but we could still get a younger one pregnant older than a woman, than an older woman can get pregnant. So I think that's part of it is, because it all comes down to animalistic instincts, the matings. We're not like actual animals, but like when we're younger, at least for men, our sex drives are younger. And I don't know if that has anything to do with, well, that's because we can only give birth, we can only procreate at a certain age. So I think if we were able to procreate like older, like then we would all have more fun making our mistakes in our 20s and then like, all right, time to settle down. I'm 35. I'm ready to have kids. Now I'm gonna find the good person that I've always said that I've wanted. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
No, it definitely does. And I think, look, the more I've kind of learned about evolution and these things, I think the answer almost to everything spawns from evolution, right?
Yeah.
And there's no doubt that, like, let's say when a woman gets to like 30s into her 40s, there has to be something very real about that, like, proverbial biological clock, because every woman you see who gets that age, whether they want kids or not, they still have that feeling of like.
Yeah,
like
I've got friends that they're almost 40 and they're trying to have a kid. They've been doing the IVF and I'm thinking, why? I'm like, what made you all of a sudden want to have kids now? Like you could have done it 10 years ago. That's why you're doing IVF now. Like,
well, and I think that's the funny thing is because maybe and as guys we'll never know, but maybe there's some element of like when you're 20, you kind of feel like how guys feel. Like you don't really feel it, right? But then when you get to that point, and this is probably hard to know for anybody, because like by the time you get to an age where you kind of know that certain things are not options anymore, whether we like to admit it as people or not, like say if you're a guy who, and we've known guys like this growing up, right? Like say you were chasing like a certain dream and like you're trying to be a musician, and you get to like 40, 45, it's like you're probably not going to be the new up and coming artist in the world, right? But that's got to be a very harsh reality if you've been chasing this kind of thing your whole life, and then go, this option isn't available to me anymore. And now, even if you didn't know that was an option you wanted, just the idea that, well, it's not available anymore also kind of puts a certain pressure on people, right? Like, so for women, I could only imagine, especially when we're talking about the biggest decision in your life, like meaning, theoretically you could be a rock star.
That's like a body change, man. Like that changes your whole body biology and all that shit.
Yeah, no, and meaning just the idea that like, this is a decision that either, for one, is the most permanent decision you can make, but also one that's the most definitive, right? Like again, at a certain point, you just won't be able to have a biological kid, right? Like you could adopt it, but at a certain point, there is an actual end date. Whereas you can get married at any age, right? You could change careers any age. You could change cities, you could travel, you could have experiences. There is a definitive end date for kids.
And all the signs in the world can't even like stop it from happening.
No, so meaning, at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, even if science could figure out for you to have a kid at
you don't want to have a kid.
You wouldn't want to do it, right? So
because that's no fair. Also, you'll die in like 10 years. And the kid's a 10-year-old now with no parents.
Well, and I think this is the biggest issue, right? Is that like at the end of the day, we men and women not only come from different places. We have different motivations. We have different biological clocks. We have different kind of needs in the short term and long term, and none of us are helping each other figure out what the best thing is. We're just going, well, they don't do this, and they don't do this, and they don't do this, and like, and we're not really figuring out the best.
We're all one
option.
giant household.
Well, yeah, and that's the problem. Is it like, we're not really getting to this place where, and this is where I think one of the keys is, and I think next time we talk about this particular subject, we can go deeper into it, but like how do we help each other? Because I think, it'd be so impactful for let's say the guy who feels neglected by women to go, well, what if he had 2 or 3 or 4 really great female friends who are going, hey, really do this, really do that. And we all have female friends or male friends if we're women, but how often are we talking about these types of things and really digging into well, what's the best solution?
That's true, because they're always giving, a lot of times it's superficial advice. Oh, dress like this, do this with your hair.
Right.
And I used to joke around with some of my female friends. They'd be like, oh, you're such a great guy. I'm like, so I'm going to you fuck me then.
Well, and again,
it's always a joking, I'm not that creepy, trying to fuck these guys.
No, but that's the funny thing, is that in theory they would all go, no, we totally would. Oh my God, yeah, we would. But in actuality, there's a different thing. And so really meaning, I think, because again, listen, men give men horrible advice. Women give women horrible advice. So then to expect that we're going to give each other perfect advice is probably not realistic. But that's where I think the key is that there's got to be some men that go out and go, hey, dude, it's not all about having sex with girls. It's not all about looking cool, being the man, blah, 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 or showing off for your friends. You want to be 50, 60 and have a great partner, don't you? And the same thing with women of going oh my God, he's so hot and he's got this money, he'll take care of you, he'll pay for this. It's up to some of those girls to go, hey, look, that's great and all, but don't you want a person who does this, this, and this, and gives you this, and provides this, and is a great person? And we're not doing that for each other, let alone for the opposite sex.
Yeah.
And so then the question would be, once we got to really give each other real advice, how could we then do that for, the opposite sex and say hey, if you're trying to find this kind of person, or helping them understand the different nature of it, because that's probably the key versus this whole idea of there's no good men out there anymore, and men saying, all girls are just, hypergamous and they only want a guy for his money and this and this. Well, we can sit here and complain about it all day, every day, or we can try to figure out a way to help each other kind of thing. So for next time.